So Tom and Tracy here with WTFFF, and we're talking with Paul Tranny of Adobe. And we want to learn a little bit today about what Adobe is doing to integrate with 3D printing.
Happy to tell you. Obviously, we have a big booth here, and usually we're really loud, but we quieted it. We had to tone it down a little bit. In essence, like Photoshop, has a built-in audience of millions. I'm not sure how many, but so many people use like Photoshop day in and day out. And we wanted to give them that avenue, of that way to sort of express themselves if they want to. But the short of it is like Photoshop, as you know, like has been doing printing. Adobe has been doing printing. Our history is integrated with PostScript.
Right. I remember.
So those fonts, and if you guys dealt with Photoshop back in the day, Illustrator, but it was all about, okay, whatever I see on my screen, I want to get printed out. So it's the same concept, whether they're bringing in a model into Photoshop or if they're creating some 3D in Photoshop as well.
So I think that's great because we talk about it all the time on the podcast that we really want to tip mainstream. And if it's going to tip mainstream and your average Etsy designer who's using it to create PDF printables and things like that are using Photoshop already. So they understand that language. And we find that the language of 3D printing tends to be a little too engineering and less design. And I don't mean it to be like criticism, but it is what it is. And if you really want to go mainstream, we got to start talking design. And Adobe talks design already. So
yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. And it scares me. Like, even if you bring up the term 3D to people, it can be a little scary. So we, even at Adobe, have to approach it a different way. Like, it really gives you the ultimate when it comes to flexibility. That's what 3D does in general. Because if I have a flat image of someone, and then a client comes back, I want a different angle or something else, freaking I'm stuck, right? I got to redo that shoot or do something else. But if it's 3D, it's like, okay, I can just adjust that a different direction. And not only that, again, that next level is the 3D printing of whatever that is.
So as we've heard more about these 3D photographs and 3D scans and things, so is now Photoshop becoming able to integrate that kind of technology into it?
Yeah, as soon as that stuff again starts to become more mainstream, like when our phones can start capturing 3D data, when I take that picture and I have that, trust me, we're on top of that. We're so on top of it.
We're on top of. We ordered a bevel already from Kickstarter. We can't wait for the 3D camera, and it is going to hook to the top of your phone.
Yeah,
so.
It goes into your headphone jack, and you can just on your phone take a 3D picture.
Do you take a straight 3D photo, and then it captures that 3D data?
You move around the object, it captures it all with a laser.
Better precision, and there's, I think actually even Autodesk might make an app and do mesh mixer, which will sync those all up and all that stuff. But trust me, we're definitely on top of that, just so you know.
Good.
That's
we're thoroughly aware and internally.
And how are you educating those who already know Photoshop? Are you offering classes, videos? What's going on there?
We're trying to get the word out as much as possible without even using that term 3D, because we don't want them to think of Cinema 4D or any of those programs, because it scares me.
Yeah.
I'm like, freaking just make it simple, and then you have me sold.
It's like having to learn how to fly a plane or something to use these programs, right?
I don't really it makes my brain hurt. And I'm like, I just want to create cool stuff, and you're making my brain hurt.
Yeah.
But in Photoshop, it doesn't make your brain hurt. In fact, I like to call it, it's like the gateway drug to 3D, because you get hooked. You're like, oh, I could do stuff, provided it's not going to replace your Cinema 4D, but that's where you might end up if you want to. So
and so where can they learn about it?
Yeah, definitely. If they go to adobe.com and selfishly my site, paultranny.com, I have a huge list of videos. Anything from making an iPhone case to
doing
type lips to doing a mini-me. This is like the our Creative Cloud logo that I turned into a bottle opener. Right? And this was just a simple extrusion.
I could use a bottle about now.
Right? I know, you're like, it's about time. I'm going to make some good use of that. And then touching, just like you might touch up a selfie in Photoshop if you wanted. There's touch up where you could, get the 3D scan.
Yeah, and the 3D scans need touch up. That's what we discovered from our experience 3D scanning, and it'd be great to do it in Photoshop because you're capable of that. If you have to really take it into a big CAD program, it's intimidating.
Yeah, it is. So that's why we're there, is to kind of meet that need and make sure even if it doesn't come from a big app that it prints out successfully. wherever it came from. Just like Photoshop doesn't take photos, I clean them up in Photoshop. Same idea. So
Great.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think so too.
Well, thank you so much for spending a little time with us today.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.